Thank you. For the record, Councilmember Greenstein is attending remotely. The mayor and Councilmember Turner are absent tonight. With that, I'll read our land acknowledgement. We, the city of Lacey, are on the ancestral land of the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek, including the Nisqually Indian Tribe and the Squaxin Island Tribe. We acknowledge and remember those tribal people not recognized today who were absorbed or relocated into other tribes for survival. We recognize the ancestors and their descendants who are still here. We recognize and respect the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek as the traditional stewards of this land since time immemorial, and their role today in taking care of these lands in perpetuity. We recognize and have the responsibility to call attention to the histories of dispossession, forced removal, and abridged treaty rights that allowed our nation, state, and city to develop as they have today. We recommend that the community members read and understand the Medicine Creek Treaty of 1854. And with that, I would entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Move to approve tonight's agenda as published.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion about tonight's agenda? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Seeing that no opposition, that motion passes unanimously, and we have an agenda. First item on tonight's agenda is public comment. It looks like there's no written comment for the record, and I don't know if there's anybody who signed up for public comment tonight. Is there anybody in this chamber wishing to address this council tonight? Okay. Seeing none, we will under regular business, and we'll start with tonight's Historical Commission 2026 work plan, and it looks like we have our Parks and Culture Recreation Director, Jen Burbidge, and her team.
Well, good evening, Deputy Mayor, council members. Thanks for having this joint work session with the Historical Commission tonight. I first want to make sure that we get all the commissioners introduced. So we'll just go around this way.
Hi, Kevin Wyckoff, Chair.
Jim Keogh, Vice Chair.
Gary Montgomery.
Dave Shipley.
And we do have, I saw a commissioner joining us, hybrid, Commissioner Getz.
Hi there. Thanks for having the virtual option.
Thank you for joining. And so, as Deputy Mayor said, we'll be sharing the Historical Commission's 2025 accomplishments and ask for your acceptance of their 2026 work plan. I did want to note that our museum curator, Erin Quinn Valcho, couldn't be here tonight, so apologies for that. But I just really, publicly want to thank her for all of her efforts in 2025 and looking forward to 2026 with the projects we have on the work plan. Chair Wyckoff and Vice Chair Keogh will present the accomplishments and work plan, but before they begin, I just want to thank the full commission for all their dedication over the last year and for putting together this work plan. We have a special thank you tonight, Vice Chair Keogh. So this is his second term expiring this September, so he's going to be leaving us soon. The thing I really want to note here is that he has served as chair for the past several years, and we're just sincerely grateful to all of his dedication and contributions to this commission. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Former chair and now vice chair. So, and then Chair Wyckoff is new in this role, so we wish to welcome him in that. And I'm going to actually turn the presentation over to Vice Chair Keogh to get us kicked off.
Okay. A full list of our 2025 accomplishments were included in your packet. I'd like to highlight a few of those here tonight. In March of this last year, we held a joint dedication and ribbon cutting ceremony with the Thurston County Historical Commission. The historic kiosk was installed at the Regional Athletic Complex, and it has 8 interpretive panels, including histories of the RAC. And for instance, in that case, extending back into Lacey's long history of hosting sporting events that began back at the Lacey Elementary School. St. Martin's Abbey and College, the Evergreen Ballroom, Lacey City history, JBLM's impact on the area, the Nisqually Tribe's history, and the importance and history of the Nisqually Delta / Billy Frank Jr. Wildlife Preserve. This was very much of a joint project. The kiosk was the spearheaded effort was spearheaded by the Thurston County Historic Commission, although you'll recognize a key name in that kicked it off, which was Ken Balsley. It is, of course, hosted now at the RAC, which we have here in Lacey. The research and writing were assisted both by our museum curator, Aaron Quinvalcho, and several members of the Lacey Historic Commission helped find photos, you name it. So it was very much of a joint effort, and I think that the photo represents that well. A key theme for 2025 could have been historic preservation. The museum curator worked with a consultant to complete the historic preservation assessments of the Jacob Smith House, the Long Lake House, and the McKinney Building. And the foundation was laid in order to submit the Jacob Smith House nomination to the Lacey Register of Historic Places. Another accomplishment along the theme of the historic preservation was the Bowker House's application for special tax evaluation being ultimately recommended for approval. The Bowker House is on the Lacey Register of Historic Places and is one of the oldest in Lacey, having been built in 1893. It was owned by George and Lucinda Bowker, who came to the Northwest from Maine.
You say 1893?
Again, along the lines of historic preservation, the staff worked with the city's GIS coordinator to identify 343 properties on the historic property inventory, 57 of which are eligible for the historic register, and there's another 115 whose eligibility is still to be determined. This is a significant accomplishment for the Historical Commission, as we can use this information to not only share with the public, but also to try to build the historic register in Lacey. This is a screenshot of the map that we put together as prepared as a result of that survey, and one of our members, Gary, was highly involved in that effort. Last spring, we were excited to present the 2025 Ken Balsley Lacey Historian of the Year Award to John Jezik. And very much deserved it. We were also happy that the museum was able to move to the new 6th Avenue location. Preview tours were offered in December to stakeholders and the public in advance of its opening this year on January 15th. In addition to their work in planning and executing this museum move, the staff also hosted several community history events along the way. An especially noteworthy one that I thought was quite educational and helpful was that they were set up a Lacey historical scavenger hunt, where we had people going around, teams of people going around and finding various historic sites, given the clues that were given them. That was held last July. And finally, it's noteworthy that the History Talks continue to be a success during the year, with 466 live participants and another 2,093 post-event online reviews. There were some very memorable moments this year. The historic museum curator's presentation on solving the mystery of O.C. Lacey and who he was very well attended. There was also very moving history and reading of the Declaration of Independence. And with that, I will turn over the presentation to Chair Wyckoff.
Thanks. So it's my pleasure to share a few of the highlights from the 2026 work plan. The full work plan is in your packet. Really, the key things we're going to be working on this year is getting the Lacey Research Center set up. So where the old museum was at the Russell House will become the Research Center. It's currently also the museum curator's office and all of that. Getting everything kind of shuffled between the new museum and setting up the Research Center to make those materials a lot more available for folks, easier to do the research. The other thing that we're going to be working on is getting a plaque located at the Bowker House. We'll be recommending the Jacob Smith House for the local registered nomination to the council. In May, we'll be selecting another Ken Balsley Historian of the Year and celebrating May as Lacey History Month. And then lastly, will be really interesting is now that we have Commissioner Montgomery and a fellow geographic information systems professional, we're going to be able to do a lot of cool work with maps, mapping Lacey historic markers and working on the historic properties inventory. So, that's what we have. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, so again, just super grateful for the time and passion that this commission puts into their work and for the community. And tonight, we're asking that the 2025 accomplishments and 2026 work plan be added to the city council consent agenda for approval.
Any questions or comments from council?
I was wondering, this is open to anybody, if anyone can provide us with a fun fact or piece of trivia about Lacey that we might not know. You didn't think you were going to get quizzed, did you?
Oh, so you're asking whether we
Yeah.
have one that
Yeah,
that you
something
might
fun.
not know? Well, I've, for instance, as an example, when we were looking into the kiosk, one of the things I found out was that the grandstand that was sitting at the Lacey Elementary School was ultimately moved out to the old ball fields across the street from what is now the rack and served as the grandstand there for a number of years. I first got introduced to them when I was playing softball out there. But I had no idea that those two things were linked.
I don't have a trivia fact, but the talk on O.C. Lacey, it will be repeated, if you've missed it, at the Schmidt House on March 5 in Tumwater.
Thank you guys for all the work that you guys have done. I know how it is when you're doing some work and it doesn't really seem like, it gets noticed. But it's important work. And I've been out to the rack and seen the kiosk, and I thought it was fantastic. So I'm a bicycle rider, and so I ride to the rack on Saturday mornings, and it's my exercise. But and I'll be excited to see if the Jacob Smith house makes it. I think that probably should have already been done. We're a little behind on that one.
Yeah, that was kind of a thing that work kind of got started in 1988. It just has gotten kind of shuffled around and got kind of left off. So it's been a long time coming that we're going to get that all sorted out.
Yeah, it's a great community asset, and it rents well.
And that will come before the council in May.
Okay.
It's already scheduled.
The Long Lake House, I thought I saw something in here about the, what's happening with it now since we purchased the property. Is that construction project is underway?
Yes.
Or is it in your next item? I don't want
no.
to jump ahead.
No, it's not in our next, it's not in our next item. I don't believe we have that one in the Parks Board. No, yeah, so that particular house is scheduled for demolition.
I saw
coming up
that.
here soon, yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to be using that space for more park space and.
Yeah, so if you want me to share with the reasons, I'd be happy to do that, but.
Well, I don't want to derail what
Okay.
these accomplishments here. I noticed it, I saw it, and I was excited about it, and so.
Yeah, so the
but-
city's, so we did purchase that property because the city's long-term plan and vision was to expand that park, and so,
Yeah.
yeah, and in those plans, there isn't, indoor spaces in those plans, so, yeah.
Well, Carolyn, did you have something?
Yeah, I wanted to just make a quick comment. I think this historic commission is kind of uniquely challenged among historic commissions because the city of Lacey, as an incorporated city, is so new, and yet we have this fascinating history that goes back to pioneer days and all. So I'm just wondering if any of you might have a comment about how those knit together.
Well, I've noticed in some of the research I've done, as well as some of the conversations I've had with people, that while Lacey's history from the vantage point of strictly looking at incorporation is what you might consider relatively recent, there was clearly a sense of community that formed and was pretty tight in terms of the volunteering and that type of thing that goes back, boy, you can easily trace it back into the 20s and 30s, 1920s and 30s. So you've got to, from that vantage point, I think a more clear-cut set of a sense of community, a sense of space and locale than simply was represented by the establishment of the city itself.
Right.
I still think one of my favorite comments that I ever heard in a conversation was one person talked about how they felt Olympia looked at Lacey. And the basic comment was that that Olympia looked at its East Side Hill as the near east. And they said, we realized we were the far east. And that was kind of the kind of services they were getting. So as a consequence, the community actually ended up putting together a lot of its own services via the fire department, the schools, et cetera.
Actually, yeah, that's our historian of the year, John Zizek. His real kind of claim to fame was ran the history of the Lacey Fire Department, and that was very much something that there's a community need that wasn't being filled by Olympia before Lacey is a city. So I mean, that was very much that community effort.
Yeah.
I joined the Historic Commission in last year, and one of the first questions I got was, does Lacey have history? That was the first question, and I felt proud of myself when I listed several items that, yes, indeed, it has a history, whether it's a racetrack or the St. Martin's College or the house that overlooks Chambers Prairie and on and on. So, and of course, we also include the indigenous tribes and the Nisqually tribe in the area. And so, yes, indeed, history is here in Lacey and not just from the incorporation of the city. It was an interesting question.
I think you guys have done a really good job of picking up the pieces, dusting them off, curating them, and getting them into a museum for the public to enjoy. I've been over there, and I thought it was fantastic. So thank you guys for being here tonight, and thank you for bringing this report to us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good stuff.
Let's see.
So we just need to get the tabletops switched over real quick. This one can stay.
So the next item on our agenda tonight is our Parks, Culture, and Recreation 2026 work plan. So Jen, don't go too far.
Okay, thanks for your patience as we get turned over here.
You bet.
All right, well, good evening again. Let's go ahead and introduce the Parks, Culture, and Recreation Board.
Chair Wheeler?
Commissioner Hillary Dykstra, Vice Chair Lori Davies, Commissioner Matt Rock.
Yes.
Oh, no.
Go ahead and turn them on. They pick up sound pretty well.
There's something different about your
Haircut.
All right, well, similarly to the Historical Commission, tonight we'll share the Parks Board's 2025 accomplishments and ask for your acceptance of their 2026 work plan. Chair Wheeler and Jenny Wilson, our Senior Parks Planner, will present the accomplishments and upcoming work plan. But before they begin, I just really want to thank this board for their dedication and hard work in 2025. Got a lot of stuff done, and just appreciate their volunteerism, their dedication, and their passion. And the community really appreciates it as well. I also really want to thank Jenny Wilson. She's our liaison with this board and just does an excellent job there, and really appreciate her hard work. A very special thank you to Chair Wheeler, too. He's serving a second year as chair and actually a third term on the Parks Board and really deserves special recognition for his leadership over the years. He's been on the Parks Board the entire time that I've been Parks Director, and it's been
It's been really
a
nice.
fun ride.
Really fun.
But yeah, we really appreciate you and all your additional contributions to special events and grand openings. And Chair Wheeler is one that really shows up for the community. So we really appreciate you, and we're going to miss you when his term expires in August.
We can amend it where it can be like ongoing, right?
4th of July.
We'd have to ask them.
MC, 4th of July.
That's the thing, we
We'll
know
stop
we'll
that.
still see him out in the
Yeah,
community,
I'll be
so
done.
it's not goodbye, right? But with that, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Director Burbidge, and thank you, Deputy Mayor Miller, and esteemed council members. I'm going to be highlighting some of the 2025 accomplishments, but the full list is in your packets. So first up, Greg Cuyo Park.
Oh, sorry, that's me.
Yep. This year's most significant accomplishment was the start of the construction at Greg Cuyo Park. The park is near completion, and we are anticipating opening in the near future once final items are addressed. When complete, Greg Cuyo Park will be Lacey's largest park, offering 139 acres of recreation opportunities. Some key features of the project include an 8,000 square foot natural-themed, highly accessible playground with companion swing, a 2,200 square foot picnic shelter with 12 picnic tables, 2 acres of open grass area, approximately 1.5 miles of paved walking paths, and 2.25 miles of soft surface trails. A large monument entrance sign, and the park also includes an 18-hole disc golf course built in partnership with the South Puget Sound Disc Golf Association, and temporary baskets are currently in place, with the course continuing to be constructed and enhanced over the next several months. Next, we have the Woodland Creek Park Bridge. The bridge replacement project at Woodland Creek is now complete, replacing a 40-year-old bridge that was in poor condition. The before and after photos highlight a new, stronger structure capable of supporting maintenance vehicles. This project is especially important because the bridge provides a key connection between the park, the disc golf course, and the Karen Fraser Wood Trail. The Park Improvement Funding Work Group was formed in 2024 and brought together 15 community members to review park needs, explore funding options, and make recommendations for the future of Lacey Parks. In 2025, the city focused on sharing information with the community about proposed Metropolitan Park District. The outreach included 27 presentations and participation in numerous community events, providing opportunities for residents and to learn about park needs, ask questions, and share feedback. While the measure did not receive enough votes to support a move forward, the process demonstrated the strong interest and care the community has for parks, programs, and services. We are proud of the work done to increase understanding of the challenges of maintaining aging park infrastructure and meeting growing demands for new and improved amenities. The McKinley Building. The Park Board and the Historical Commission have included the McKinney Building on their work plans for several years with the goal of evaluating potential use of the building and the site. To support this work, staff engaged two consultants to provide analysis. A historic preservation consultant assessed the building's historic significance, while an environmental assessment was completed through a critical area report. I'm kind of glad Mayor Ryder's not here, so I had to make eye contact to tell him that based on the information, both commissions recommended the removal of the building. I know it's something that the council and Mayor Ryder, had passion in, but it ain't in good shape. So staff will be presenting the full findings and recommendations at an upcoming city council work session on March 24th.
So we won't be asked to present this work plan yet?
We will be asking for this to be, on the consent agenda, this will be something that will come forward to council to settle.
Yeah, because on the work plan, it's stated as McKinney House and Parcel Assessment, so that's still for 2026, yeah. Even though staff will be recommending, and the commissions recommend removal. Just a sneak preview.
We are continually looking for ways to stretch limited funding and strengthen partnership with community organizations, which is reflected in the grant and donations received this year. Most notably, the city was awarded 2 grants totaling more than $720,000 from the Washington State Recreation and Conservation Office. The total of over $937,000 represent more than fiscal support. They reflect strong partnership, shared values, and highlight the broad community support for parks and the important role they play in enhancing quality of life in Lacey. And at that, I'm going to hand it over to Jenny Wilson to go over the 2026 work plan.
I'm Jenny Wilson.
I'm so sorry. So tonight, I'm going to highlight some of the key work plan items for 2026. You have the full list in your packet, so I'm going to focus on the new and most significant items. So main construction projects for 2026 will include the completion and opening of Greg Cuyo Park, along with a grand opening, which we're working on, as well as Bush Park playground replacement.
Okay, and Jenny, before we move on from construction projects for the work plan, so Deputy Mayor, to your question about the Long Lake House demo, it is on the work plan under construction projects, number 7. So
Yeah.
that's where that item is actually captured.
Yeah, I thought I saw it in the packet, I just did,
I was
yeah.
on historical commission, and so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had
Sometimes
shift my
skip
brain a
ahead.
little bit, so thank you for your patience.
The playground at Bush Park for ages 5 to 12-year-olds is the oldest in our park system at 30 years old. So it's really due for a replacement. You can see the yellow one up there is one that was just recently taken down, and these are the renderings for the new one. In 2025, we had a lot of fun. We shared several design concepts with the community and gathered feedback on their preferred option. They chose the tugboat theme, which is pictured here. It was really great. We got a lot of youth involvement. The tugboat theme was by far the biggest selected one, so we're excited to move forward with it. The playground will also feature rubber surfacing material to improve accessibility for all users. This project is meaningful in many ways, but really because of the partnership we have with Gateway Rotary. They're contributing $110,000 towards this project. And in addition, they also are providing volunteer support. They were at the community engagement events. They're helping with the grand opening. So yeah, really important partnership for us. And then key planning projects for 2026 include continuing the design process for the rack improvements and beginning the design for Rainier Vista Park. Rainier Vista Park is in the early stages of development for some new amenities, which will include pickleball courts, outdoor ping pong table, and safety netting for the baseball area. We've selected an architecture firm to design the additions in the area pictured here, and it's really a welcome improvement. Local pickleball players have really been clamoring for some more courts on a busy day or a hot day. It's really, really busy out there. So partnerships continue to play a critical role. The local pickleball club has pledged $25,000 towards the project, and also the Park Foundation of Thurston County has contributed $5,000. Both are really helping us with our grant applications and also just making the project possible. So we're really, really thankful there. And then design is also underway for the Regional Athletic Complex Improvement Project. This is funded through the Public Facility District Extension, and construction is planned for 2027. So it'll include, base improvements will include converting soccer field number 2 to synthetic turf, adding additional lighting, installing seating and fencing, and then new outfield netting for baseball fields 1 and 2. And additional enhancements could be incorporated as funding becomes available, but those are main aspects of that project. And then just similar to what Jen said, we're just so grateful for the time, effort, and guidance that the Parks Board provides. They're really a great group of community members who really care about our parks programs and community in general. So this is some of them at our ribbon cutting ceremony at the Bridge Project. Michelle Gibson is not here tonight, but she was at that, and she comes to our meetings, so really thankful for her support. And tonight we're asking the Parks Culture and Recreation Board's 2025 accomplishments and work plan for 2026 be added to the consent agenda for approval.
Any questions or comments from the council?
Questions?
I just wanted to say I'm super excited for William Bush Park's new playground equipment. That was the first park my family ever went to when we moved to Lacey, and when we went out to go vote for it, and we were just excited to see all of the options. And my son is currently extremely excited at how tall that is going to be. We drive by it and he can see how tall the pillars are, and he's like, "That's going to be amazing."
My 4-year-old and 6-year-old are also very excited for the tugboat park that's coming.
I did have one question about the Cuyo. Is that kiosk or that space, is that going to be like for reservation, like, kind of like at the rack? Is it
The
gonna be for-
picnic shelter?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to be just community gathering space. Right now, we are kind of leaving it open to first come, first serve, because there is only one space there. But it's something that we could certainly look at exploring in the future for renting it. But yeah, just, we're envisioning multiple users and families sharing that space at one time.
When I was out there for the tour with Annette and Jen and a few other, Aaron was there, we were all there, just hanging together. It was awesome. I noticed that it's powered, and so are those locked off like they are at the rack for overnight? And
I can't recall off the top of my head if they have locks on them
yeah,
at this particular moment. But I can check and get back to you on that.
you don't have to check in and get back. I'll go take a look. But I was just wondering.
But as Jenny said, it's going to start out to be first come, first serve, and not reservable unless it's, there will be a few events that we'll do, but they have to be a particular type of event. It's more like school use and like South Puget Sound Disc Golf Association use. It's not going to be set up in this phase to have large power loads, no festivals, food trucks, that type of stuff is not going to be able to be supported. And so it's kind of a softer start, if you will. And the picnic shelter it might seem oversized at this point because we don't have restrooms yet, but it's the first phase of a long-term park, and the park, as you know, is going to be really big once we can recognize the full space. And so, there could be a day in the future where that space could support more of the festival-type activities, but for now, as Jenny said, community and family use, and, you could have a very large group in there right now, or several families all at once, so, yeah.
Have we got a date yet for the opening?
We don't have a substantial completion date at this point. We are still addressing some challenges at the site, and so we're just not quite ready. So, but our list is growing shorter. There were 7 punch list items 2 months ago.
So for Rainier Vista updates, I saw that we got some grant money. I was very excited to see that. I don't know how much it's going to cover, but I'm hoping the engineer's estimates don't come in too high. Do we have any kind of idea what we might be looking at?
Yeah, the full project budget is about $920,000, and that's pretty typical with the grant with the RCO. It's usually we have to provide a 50% match. So some of the match is also going to be community donors, and that helps us with our match. But the full project is a little over $900,000.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think we're still waiting for a rough order of magnitude from the consultants on that one, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So we'll begin some estimates, some better estimates here soon.
Okay. One thing I wanted to say was, Parks, you guys don't get enough acknowledgement for all that you guys do. It's just, you guys put out an impossible amount of programming. And so part of what you guys do is the programming portion, and another part that you guys do is the capital portion. And then there's the outreach portion. And you guys do an incredible amount of work, if you ask me. I see it, and I still sometimes, when I go to the 3rd of July, and I go to, the different events, and it just, what you guys put together is phenomenal for this community. And I enjoy it, my family enjoys it. I don't know anybody who has anything bad to say about it. You guys just do a great job.
Thank you.
And I did watch your video. You did a video about the bridge.
Oh, I did, yes.
You did a bridge opening video, and I watched that on YouTube. I couldn't be there, but I did watch it, and you did a great job.
Thank you.
So if I could have a chance to jump in, I think that what's been demonstrated is how much this board and this department does to get money from outside sources. And I just want to encourage the council to consider the Metropolitan Park District run again, because I really think that ongoing funding, Lacey has the best parks in Thurston County. And I've lived in Thurston County for 40 years. Best parks, best park system, best parks. But we've got to keep them going. We've got to keep them at that upper echelon. And so I just want to encourage the council to consider again. I know it's been a double defeat is tough, but I just want to encourage you to continue to look at creating an ongoing funding source for these great parks and this great system, because it's really a stress to continue to try to, especially on Jenny and Jen, to continue to get outsourced funding to continue to make our park system what it is. And so that's my plug again to make another run at
That
ongoing funding.
Yeah, I was going to say, thank you for those comments. From my perspective, as a city manager, is trying to find the balance and maintain these services and the quality parks that the community obviously deserves. We get a lot of good feedback. We get a lot of community and cultural connection through our parks programs. And going forward and trying to look at these balances of services, how do we maintain that dedicated funding so we can continue not only just maintain, but also to continue to grow some of the vision in the parks plan. So thank you for those words and encouragement to continue to look at funding sources to create that opportunity.
Yeah, the encouragement is much needed in a lot of cases, because it's easy to come off of a failing MPD and feel discouraged, and feel like, you spent the money and the time, you got it on the ballot and it failed, and do you want to take that risk again and spend those dollars again? Is the public with you? Are they not with you? And it can be easy to say, you know what, let's just hang that up for a while, and sometimes a while in these circumstances can be a decade. But I don't think we want to wait that long to make another effort. And hearing you guys say, you guys would like us to try again, honestly, it feels good, because I didn't think it was going to fail. I think we got kind of in a timing situation, and we got into a kind of community feeling really negative about taxes and government in general. So it was more than just one issue that plagued us in that situation. We did do better than the previous time, but it can be discouraging. So thank you for your comments. Councilmember Greenstein.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add, I think it's, I think the council and the city in general, we have a pretty good understanding of the fact that we have to figure out a better funding mechanism for our parks. And I think that we will, I'm sure we will at some point in the future look at it again. But, I think the key here is waiting for the right timing. And I'm not saying wait a long time, because we don't have a long time. But we have to wait until the economy is in a place where we think we can get some public support. I think it's just a very difficult time to ask people for additional funding when, people are worried about paying their bills right now. So I think it's all about timing, because I don't think that the outcome showed a lack of support for our parks. I mean, the feedback that we received and the people that I've spoken to, and we all speak to a lot of people, the feeling about our parks is incredibly positive. So I think we will find a way to get the funding necessary to make sure we can maintain the great park system that we have. Thank you.
You bet.
And I just want to add too, it's parks, it's also the programming. I think we make sports and outdoor organized activities accessible to people who can't afford a membership to, a league or a gym or some other kind of recreation facility. And I'm really proud of that. And I want to make sports and activities as available as possible, and and I think as our population grows and homes are getting smaller and backyards are getting smaller, that public recreation space and opportunity is even more important, because you can't just send your kids out to the backyard to get outside. You have to go to a park or sign up for sports, so.
Absolutely. Well, if there's nothing more from the council, again, great job. What you guys do is a heavy, heavy lift, and we're happy to have the fantastic parks and all the programming that you guys put together to make sure that the community has, access to recreation. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you. Council members?
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on in our agenda, our next item that we have tonight is our ULID number 25, bond ordinance and debt issuance briefing with our finance director, Mr. Troy Wu.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Good evening, Council. I'm actually going to quickly turn this over to Chelsea Knight, our accounting manager, to make the presentation.
All right, thank you. Good evening. Tonight we're discussing a proposed bond ordinance in order to finance ULID 25. I wanted to provide summary information to allow for some context, since this has happened in kind of several stages. So ULID 25 was formed for the installation of sewer in the Tolme Park Estates neighborhood. Council decided to spend $2 million of city money towards the overall cost of the project, and lot waived 50% of their capacity development charges as well. This is a map showing the ULID area. It's within the red outline. 47 single-family homes and 1 duplex were included in the project. The total cost of the ULID 25 project was just under $2.3 million, and as mentioned, the city contributed $2 million. The net cost to parcel owners equaled $291,970.26, or $6,082.71 per ERU. The council adopted the final assessments on December 2nd of 2025. An appeal opportunity was followed by a prepayment period, which began on December 22nd. The prepayment window allowed property owners to be able to make payments on those assessments without the interest being applied. A total of $67,909.81 was received in prepayments, and this left a total amount to finance of $224,060.45. Internal financing is being recommended to the council for the remaining ULID amount payable by the parcel owners. The size of the ULID, both in dollar value as well as the number of parcels, makes it very difficult to market externally. And there are sufficient funds available in the city's LID debt fund to lend to the wastewater fund for this purpose. The city's investment policy allows for this with specific parameters that we have to meet. Essentially, our policy requires that our investments are limited to items that are a maximum of 5 years, unless the maturity of such an investment is made to coincide as nearly as practical with the expected use of reserve funds. So in the case of the LID debt fund, that amount, the fund balance, those reserves are not anticipated to be spent, and so that is doable within our investment policy. Also, there's very specific guidance provided by the state auditor's office that needs to be satisfied, and we will achieve this through the documentation provided by our bond counsel, as well as our placement agent and the city's formal action. So a market analysis was done, and that was, we completed that January 29th, and then it was also confirmed again on February 18th to make sure nothing had changed. And we're also going to take another look before finalizing the ordinance. The total par amount is $224.60.45, as mentioned, with a 15-year repayment period. The market is supporting an interest rate of 4.4%. This is slightly higher than traditional city bonds, but it's lower than a private bank loan. And the main reason for that is that it's considered a junior lien status, and so that's why the placement of the interest rate falls kind of in between the two. This approach is very advantageous for all the parties involved. For the parcel owners, they will save thousands in debt issuance costs. There's no debt reserve required, and they receive the benefit of the city's strong credit rating. And for staff, there's a reduced workload and no continuing disclosure requirements. So on March 3rd, staff intend to provide a draft bond ordinance for the council's review and adoption for this internal financing mechanism. And with that, I can take any questions or discussion.
Any question or concerns from the council?
Seems like a great way to get a 4.4% return on our money.
Very true.
I have what's probably a very silly question, and that is, if we're backing this from the city's utility fund, what happens if a ratepayer defaults? Is it going to cost us money to recover the money, or?
It does. So we do have a pretty robust mechanism in which we try to collect those dollars. It can actually lead to foreclosure of the property, but that's a fairly long process.
Right.
But, you know, the bottom line, this is going to be city debt. I know we're buying debt from ourselves, but, you know, just kind of set that aside. It is city debt. The city would be responsible ultimately. But again, we have that foreclosure process in which that is how it protects the city.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So a lot of times what happens is when a junior lien is potentially in default, the first lien holder doesn't want to lose the property to the junior lien holder, so oftentimes they will cover the junior lien and add it to the first in some of those kind of circumstances and situation. In addition to that, there's nowhere on the market you can get 4% on a junior lien. You're looking more like 9 or 10, sometimes upwards of 12% for something like this. So smoking hot deal for the members of that community.
So, so I know, is this on a aromatization schedule, or is it just a flat 4.4 per year? How can they pay it off early? Like, can you just go over kind of the details of how that normally works?
Sure. So think of it as like an annual mortgage payment. So instead of monthly, it's annual. So it's at 15 annual payments. Interest basically accrues the first day of the year, rather than through that 12-month period. So that's why we're careful about the prepayment period as well. So, and I'm sorry, I forgot the second part of your question.
I think you probably answered it, to be honest.
Okay, sorry.
So that looks like about $450 a year per person, per lot, somewhere in that ballpark.
I think it's right around $500.
$500.
Yeah.
Per year? Is that the question?
Per year, per parcel.
It was a prepayment. Can they pay it off at any time if they
prepayment,
choose
yes,
to?
thank you. So as long as yes, they can, but in terms of the interest accrual, it has to happen before that first day, which for us is going to be at the beginning of March when the ordinance is adopted. So as long as they make that prepayment before, let's just say March 1st, that next year's interest won't accrue. But if they go after March 1st, they could still prepay, but that full year interest will apply.
Are you wondering if there's an actual prepayment penalty if they pay it off early?
Yeah, I mean, some of like, what's the risk to them, right?
And prepayments actually fairly common with LIDs, local improvement districts, just because they're 15, 20 years. So typically when a property sells, it's required, or the escrow and the mortgage company doesn't want to be second behind a government lien. So they often require that to be paid at closing to clear the property. So it's actually happens more often than you would think.
Deputy Mayor, were you asking about the interest only, or?
No, I was just kind of doing some quick math and just kind of, it looked at like about $450, $500 a year.
Oh, for the total
For the
assessment.
total
Okay.
assessment for each parcel owner for the next 15 years. So somewhere in that ballpark. And so you guys are just looking on direction. Do we add this to our next agenda item for consent, or are you looking to, or this has to come before us again as
Ordinance,
a
so it will
ordinance?
come before as an ordinance under the regular agenda of the council, and we're looking to schedule this for next meeting on March 3rd, if council's ready to move forward with this.
Okay. Looks like we are good to go.
Great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you. Let's see here. Next item on our agenda tonight,
Fund level.
our fund level budget amendment process. Mr. Wu.
Thank you again, Deputy Mayor. Tonight's really just a briefing of an administrative change we're making to our budget amendment process. So again, information only, but we'd obviously welcome feedback from the council. So you'll probably remember this slide from your retreat. The city manager shared the 9 actions and directives that he's laid out in terms of being cautious with today's economy and just being mindful of public monies. And really what this discussion tonight is going to focus here is on that highlighted bullet, which is kind of a shift in how we're going to enforce budget appropriations. So prior to very recently, we enforced budget appropriations at the fund level. And in fund level, I mean, this is your ordinance that you adopted back in December for the 26 budget. We have 31 different funds. So this is the level of budget control that we've had historically. So as long as we stayed under these appropriations per fund, we considered that our control and our measure of accountability. With the directive from the city manager to have that strict line item enforcement, that means anytime an expense might come through the accounts payable process, if there isn't adequate budget, we're going to pause that payment, and we're going to have discussions on what that really means in terms of the budget, and that's what this process is about. So it's really a shift from fund level to line item accountability. And to give you an example, this is the finance budget, and I realize that's quite small, but rather than the entire general fund being the measurement in which we won't exceed the budget, we're going to look at these individual line items, and there are, I think, 2,000 line items in the budget. So as an example, if throughout 2026, that the finance department discovered that our estimate for the annual audit was going to be more than $88,000, as we went through the year and made payments to the state for those services, and we reached that $88,000 and we started to exceed that, we would not allow that payment. We'd have an internal discussion on what to do with the budget. And so what this process is going to do is it's going to allow the city manager to move monies within these line items, not exceed those fund appropriations, but simply move. Let's say that finance department realizes that it's not going to have as much training or travel in 2026. We could shift some of those monies that are not anticipated to be spent and put them into the audit budget. So this is really a line-by-line movement of appropriations. This is an item that state statute does allow. I'm not going to read through the provisions of that state statute, but it's really an efficiency function, it's an administrative function that allows basically the chief operating executive to make these changes within funds or departments.
Is there any limit on that amount?
Up to that fund balance. So if, say, it's a $50 million general fund appropriation by the council through ordinance, that $50 million can be shifted in any manner. Having said that, we definitely know our direction and the priorities of the city. I don't think our city manager would take all the city manager budget and put it into a salary as an example. But, I mean, this is really just an efficiency thing, and we're going to look at these line by line as we go. So key elements of the draft procedure and policy that we have drafted, again, the amendments have to stay within that fund. We can't move from one fund to another. We cannot increase that fund appropriation. That would have to come back to City Council. Each amendment that's being proposed would need a corresponding decrease somewhere within that fund. So we would just be moving money from one line to another. And it's kind of repetitive, but amendments can't assume the use of unbudgeted reserves. Again, anything that adds to the budget will need to come back to the City Council. So this is an official amendment process that's going to happen internally, but again, not going to add anything to the budget. Some of the benefits of this, it maintains the integrity of the budget, of course. That's, critical for us. This lessens the administrative burden. So we've essentially done this basically since the history of Lacey. We've underspent some line items and overspent others, and we've tracked that kind of administratively. It happens all the time. A budget is a living document. Things happen throughout the year. Unexpected things come up throughout the year. So if that happened previously, we would simply identify the same thing, budgets that we weren't going to spend. When we felt confident that we weren't going to exceed budgets, we simply over-expended those items where it was needed. So this really just kind of makes that official, and we will actually move those funds. In terms of the city manager directive, this does enhance fiscal accountability to the public, to the budget document itself, still within compliance of state law. And I think probably most importantly for us as staff is this accommodates a budget control without completely hampering what we're trying to do on a day-to-day basis. Think about coming to the council with every budget amendment. That might be a 2-week period. We just don't have that luxury when we're operating and trying to provide services to our citizens, so it allows an administrative change without having to come back to council every time. I mean, these are pretty minor in nature typically. So in terms of closing comments, again, no actions requested from the council. This is just an administrative process, but we wanted to inform you this is a little bit different in terms of what we've done in the past. So we do plan on having the city manager move forward with the final policy, and we'll implement that into our operations and our budget controls going forward. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, of course.
And I'll just add too, just to reemphasize, as while we're setting up the formal policy, a lot of this activity, we're setting a process for it. Versus, as Troy mentioned, we're already doing some of this work as we reconcile the books and everything else, but now we're setting up a process so we can track it in time, so we know where those dollars are going and where they're coming from versus at year end. So it does create a little bit more predictability. And also, if we do need to pivot and bring something back to council, it gives us a little bit more insight of when we do that's outside of the overall fund balance, or if we need to pull funds from a reserve account or something like that to make the adjustment.
I appreciate the flexibility it provides. My question and my concern is, what does this do to staff in terms of their workload?
At this point, Troy and his team has been having some workshops with the staff to go over this policy and what that would look like in terms of process. It is going to be in change in what we currently do, so we are going through that within the organization with that training, and reemphasizes that this is a process that we were looking at for better budget controls. But it will change how we currently do things, so there is that turnover. We're going to have to get used to new systems and new forms to work that process. I don't know, Troy, if you have anything more to add, how the training program's been going, some of the questions you've
Sure.
received.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a layer of administrative burden, but, our goal is not to stop operations. In fact, a conversation I had with somebody, we talked about a fire hydrant getting hit by a car. Those cost $5,600 for a hydrant. I was surprised how expensive that was. So, in the moment, we're going to make that repair, right? That's a public safety issue. Many things that we do are public safety issues. So it's not going to stop that operation, but it is going to, we're going to have some, at the back end, administrative work to find those dollars in the budget to keep the budget whole. But we're not going to call a timeout and stop the replacement of hydrant until we figure it out, which may take a week or something like that. That's not what's going to happen operationally. So as Rick said, we're going to develop those internal processes. I think Rick's going to delegate a lot of that kind of on-the-ground authority to the finance department to remain nimble as well. So again, we hope not to disrupt our operations of our city, but it definitely is going to be an administrative burden on the back end.
And the only reason why I ask is because it almost, is this something that in the end might require that we have an additional FTE in finance consequently? Or is this something that this team can pick up and carry well?
I don't anticipate from the finance departments, and in fact, we recently hired a vacant position, and we shifted budget duties to that position. So we actually have more budget help than we've ever had in finance. So I feel confident that finance isn't going to need that. In terms of kind of just historically, we typically don't have a lot of budget line items that get exceeded throughout the year, but I'll also acknowledge that we reduced line item budgets in the general fund by about $940,000. So those budgets became more tight, and it's going to be more difficult to stay within those individual line items. But I don't think this is going to be a large burden on the organization.
Okay. Anything else from the council? All right. Seeing none, when would this be coming before us?
This, it's just an administrative policy. We just wanted to make sure
You don't need to
council's
bring
aware. It won't come back to council. It'd be something that we'll enact as our administrative controls.
Okay. All right, well, thank you for your presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
Moving right along. Opioid settlement interlocal agreement update. City manager.
Yes, thank you. As I think the council's been aware, and we've had some conversations about the opioid settlements and the formation of the Opioid Abatement Council underneath the original local interlocal agreement between Thurston County, the cities of Tumwater, Olympia, and Lacey. Just as a reminder, the council has appointed Councilman Greenstein to be the council's representative on the Opioid Abatement Council. So I'd invite Councilman Greenstein to weigh in and provide some background on his conversations at that level. So before I turn it over to Dave to kind of go through some of the finer points of the agreement, just again for a little bit of background, under the Washington 1 MOU for related to the national settlements for the opioid pharmaceuticals and suppliers. We were to form our own opioid abatement council to provide oversight and how the funds that we will receive through that settlement would be distributed out to meet the terms of those settlements in terms of fighting or supporting the services related to opioid addiction. As the county and Olympia, Tumwater, and Lacey, we looked at those funds coming down. We each get our own distribution. However, there are various amounts that goes proportionally to each jurisdiction, and so it was always thought that it'd be better to pool those dollars at the regional level to go have greater impact versus each of the jurisdictions using those dollars separately. So as the Opioid Abatement Council was formed, there was conversation about how to amend the existing ILA to include provisions and an efficient mechanism for pooling those funds and determining what they should be used for, and that process for making that recommendation and decision to the Board of County Commissioners. Which brings us to tonight with the proposed amendments to this ILA that's been discussed at the Opioid Abatement Council level and with the various managers and jurisdictional attorneys. So I'll turn this over to Dave to kind of go through whether specific amendments to the ILA, and then, of course, have the opportunity for Councilman Greenstein to weigh in on the conversations they've had at the council level. So, Dave?
Yeah, thank you, Rick. Good evening, Deputy Mayor and council members. Just to recap, the interlocal agreement that the council is going to be considering, that we're discussing tonight, and that will be at a forthcoming council meeting, is essentially, it was adopted in 2023, and there's only a couple of sections of this agreement that are going to be amended. And therefore, you'll see in the title, it's a restatement, first amended and restated interlocal agreement. And so the only sections that are actually being amended are Section 5, and then there's a new section, which is Section 6. And previously, as Rick mentioned, the funding, all the jurisdictions were maintaining their own funding, and they had, local control as to however they wanted to be spent. New Section 5 is allocating and authorizing the pooling of those funds. And so how this is going to work is every year by June 30th, each jurisdiction will give notice to the lead agency, which is going to be the county, and that's articulated in the new Section 6, that the county is in fact the lead agency. And each jurisdiction is going to indicate to the county how much of their funds are going to be pooled that particular year. The county is agreeing to pool, I believe it's 500,000 for 26 and 27 of their funds. Once all the funding is pooled, then, the independent subcommittee, which is, the OAC, is going to then be making advisory recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners on how to utilize those pooled funds. And then the decision-making process there is that the independent subcommittee, of which Councilmember Greenstein's a member, will be making their recommendations to the commissioners, and the Board of County Commissioners can only approve it. They can't amend it, they can't change it. If they do not approve it, then it would go back to the independent subcommittee, and there could be some amendment at that level, maybe based on some comments or thoughts from the commissioners. When it goes back to the Board of County Commissioners, again, they would be limited to either approving it or rejecting it as a whole. If it does not get approved, ultimately all those dollars would be redistributed to the local jurisdictions for them to distribute as they want pursuant to the one MOU. The only other, again, then Section 6 is new, and that just designates the county as the lead agency for the pooled funding. So that's essentially it. And so this, I think, will be coming forward. This is an interlocal agreement between multiple jurisdictions, so the city council needs to take action to authorize the city manager to execute this agreement, and that'll be coming before council in future meetings.
Next week, if council's ready to move forward with it. And then again, one of the provisions is, the concern of the Board of County Commissioners, they have probably the largest amount of settlement dollars coming to them. So they want to make sure that they have some level of control. But also, we all receive those dollars. And so all the partners want to also make sure that we have a say and have autonomy over those dollars. So while we want to pool those dollars, this puts us in the safeguards that if there isn't a consensus of where those dollars should be utilized, each jurisdiction has the ability to retain their dollars and use it how they see fit. Councilman Greenstein, do you have anything to add from the conversations you've had?
Yeah, not much. Everything you said is exactly how I understood it from our meetings as well. I'm very happy with this. I think this is the direction that we've been trying to go for over a year now. This is where we've been trying to get, and I'm glad to see it's finally in front of the individual jurisdictions, because none of that money has been able to be used for any good. It's just sitting there at this point. And once all of the councils get, the jurisdictions approve this, we'll be able to actually start taking in RFPs and actually start spending that money and hopefully using it to help some people. So I'm very comfortable with this, and particularly because we were able to make it so that the county commissioners could not override the opioid abatement board. So that made me very comfortable with this.
So, is there anything from the council? Okay. Just real quick, so it seems very straightforward, right? And I like the language about you can deny it, but you can't change it. If they should deny it, is there a period of time that we have to wait for it to get back to them? Because in some cases that's like a 45-day period, or is it just it goes back to the opioid abatement council, and after their next meeting, then they make another recommendation, or how does that?
Yeah, the agreement just indicates that the unallocated opioid settlement funds will be returned to the parties. It doesn't have specific time language in there.
So if they deny a recommendation, then those are considered to be unallocated, and they go.
Well, I guess there's there's the specific language if they deny, quote, if in the event the Board of County Commissioners does not approve the funding recommendation, the subcommittee will review and then consider revisions. In the event the Board of County Commissioners does not approve the funding recommendation for the second time, they will be returned to the parties for their own use.
Okay.
The unallocated is from a different section indicating it also, any unallocated funds would also be returned to the parties for their own use.
Okay.
And one thing is, if that does happen and the dollars are returned to each of the parties for their own use, we would come to council and say, how would you like to utilize these dollars? Set up a process for them to make that deliberation. But the opioid abatement council is still there to provide the annual reporting requirements. So we would report how we use those dollars to the OAC. They would issue a determination that it met the terms of the settlement and pass it up to the state level as well. So they're still there as a reporting of how those dollars are being used in accordance with the settlements.
And my recollection is that the individual amount that would come to Lacey in the event that we can't get a countywide plan is not very big, is it? I mean,
Yeah, it isn't, and I've lost track because of all the different settlements come down, and they're all different amounts, and they're all payable over 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
But just as an example, this has been going on for about 2 years now, roughly, and we've collected a combined total of about $415,800. So it's a substantial amount, especially if we can able to pull it and put it into a regional approach. But individually, you don't have the same bang for your buck.
Exactly. So there's incentive to make it work. Whip them into shape, Lenny.
Councilmember Greenstein?
Yes.
In terms of recommendations, is there anything swirling that, or any projects that, nothing yet?
So not yet, because we really have not been able to do anything because the holdup has been this, having this, we had no authority yet to be able to take in, to put out an RFP, to take in options or where to spend the money. So everything's been held up by this process of getting this interlocal agreement done. And in fact, our meeting, which was scheduled for, I think it's next week, was actually just canceled because until this is signed, we have no ability to do anything. We sit in a room, we talk to each other, but we're not able to do any real work.
Are we the first council to view this?
It's all going back to the respective jurisdictions. I think we will be one of the first ones to take action if we're scheduled to go forward next week with it.
Okay. And then.
Hopefully everyone takes action on it in March, and then April, we can actually, put together the RFP process and go out for bid.
Yeah, it'd be really nice to see these dollars finally get to the street.
Believe me, Malcolm, I wanted them out on the street by the end of last year was my goal and what I was pushing for, and here we are.
So as the county being the fiduciary, is it subject to the customary 20%, or how does that work in this case?
The up to 10%, it's actual costs up to 10%.
10% this time, correct? Okay. Is there anything further from the council? All right, Sienna, thank you so much, Dave. Thank you, and I'm really hoping this works well, and I hope the other councils agree with this so we can, really start making a difference with these dollars. I mean, been sitting there collecting. I hope they're gaining interest, and possibly we can, put them towards some of the things that we're all hoping to accomplish with our homelessness and all the other things.
Based on my conversations, Deputy Mayor, I would anticipate that all of the jurisdictions will approve this. This is exactly what every one of the jurisdictions was asking for.
Well, thank you for your work on the Opioid Abatement Council and helping put this together, because, man, it's been a while.
So,
Yeah, this isn't super relative, but whenever we talk about the opioid settlement, I just always feel the need to just say it and remind everyone that, like, it is great that we're going to get these funds, but, you know, hundreds of thousands of lives were lost and destroyed because of these companies, and no one went to jail for it or really paid a price outside of monetary. And so I just always feel like that's just something that this isn't a good thing we're getting this money.
No,
you know,
and
and hopefully it'll do some good, but it's nothing in compared to the damage that's been done.
Yeah, this doesn't make up for the damage that we've seen and all the people that have been hurt and lives that have been lost. I'm grateful that the tribe has stepped in and with their new clinic and can, you know, hopefully soon join our ecosystem that's currently being updated and revamped.
And I don't know if anyone knows, but I believe they did get their permitting finally approved.
I haven't heard
I'm pretty
that
sure
yet.
I'm pretty sure that was the word that got passed. So now they're just doing some final hurdles.
Oh, man, that'd be great.
Well, with council's concurrence, this is scheduled for next week for council to issue authorization for the city manager to sign the agreement, and then we'll get that process started with our other partners.
Excellent. We all concur?
Sounds good.
All right, let's move it forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
And the last item on our agenda tonight, I believe it's the last item, is council reports. So this is new for us to doing council reports on a work session, and I want to thank Councilmember Dunning for suggesting this. I think it'll streamline some of our meetings. And I, you know, for the longest time, we've only done it on council nights, no work session reports. But here we are, making changes to streamline our efficiency, and we'll see. Does anybody have any reports tonight? I know typically we start with the mayor and then we go to myself. I do not have a report. Councilmember Cox?
I don't think maybe I was just going to try to get back to the calendar here and make sure I don't.
While you're doing that, I skipped Councilmember Greenside. He is actually after myself, so,
I do not have any reports for this evening.
okay.
Do you want me to go while she's looking just in case, or?
We'll give her a
We can
second.
wait too. I don't about me. Again, because it's not necessarily an official report, but me and Ryan did have our orientation with the RHC today and with some of the staff members from Lacey and the county. And we had a really, I would say, really productive meeting and identified really as a group some of the things that we can do to improve. One of those being, you know, we kind of strayed a little bit towards policy, and we really talked a lot about just what the exact role of the RHC is and the funding body that it is, and trying to streamline that. We also talked about getting back in person so we can have better communication. That was a big one, and I know there's other jurisdictions are kind of on board with that as well too. You know, and really when it comes down to it, trying with there being so many levels to the RHC, I think one of the things that was difficult was making sure that we're getting the right communication to the right level. And I think there was something missing as things were going up, because there's so many levels of it before it gets to the county. And so that's something we talked about is how to get information across better and be able to talk about it. And so we also talked about doing a similar format to what we're doing, is doing some, not having every meeting in the formal structure, but doing some work session type meetings as well too. So it was a really productive, and the city staff was really engaged in that as well too, because I think one thing that we really identified was that, you know, we'll just take one project, for example, and it's like, yeah, let's do this project, but we don't talk about how that one then affects these like 5 other things. It's just we take it one at a time, and being able to talk about those things more in whole, and then also be able to bring those things back to our city to be able to talk is more of a whole than just that one thing at a time. So a lot of good ideas there moving forward that we're hoping to incorporate into not only how we do things, but the other jurisdictions as well too. Did you have any?
No.
Comments on that? Okay.
Yeah. Is that the end of your report? Yeah. Okay.
On February 18th, the Intercity Transit Authority met. And there were some routine items such as purchasing a work truck and electrical work. Of note, we've decided to amend the bylaws to change meeting frequency to once a month. This will probably start in April. And there weren't too many sad faces at the prospect of losing one night meeting a month. And then, but the most interesting part of the session was a report on the Transit Ambassadors Program, which was begun as a pilot over this past year. And right now, there are 6 of these ambassadors who have identifiable uniforms, and they ride on the most traveled routes generally and spend a little time at the transit centers as well. And they're there to support the drivers, to kind of keep order, to help people with directions, that sort of thing. And this presence has notably improved behaviors on the buses and in the transit center. So we don't have the money to expand it in a large way right now, but we're trying to target budget savings into hiring more ambassadors. And the people hired into this typically have been bus operators and customer service people, and so it's a promotion for them as well. So it's a win-win-win, and very happy to see that. And then one just final thing, everybody remember that in May, I think it starts on the 3rd, they're going to be doing the new overhaul of the transit system. And so new transit guides are going to be available to help people start figuring out how the new route system is going to affect their commute. And we're gearing up for lots of community outreach to help people get as prepared as they can for the changes that we hope are going to be just a small hiccup in improving everybody's lives. So, thanks.
Okay. As far as the RSC, I think the meeting in person is going to be helpful. I see on your guys' meetings, there's like 35 people on the screen, and I can understand how, it seems as if there's no separation between the voting members and the non-voting members, and I think you and I have had this discussion before, and, again, siloed projects are oftentimes, something that doesn't, give consideration to the ecosystem of projects. So it'll be interesting to see how that comes out. One question I did have, Councilmember Cox, was we have the free ride program, right? And I think it was supposed to be for 5 years.
They extended it another year because we lost so much ground to COVID.
Okay. So what is that? I don't remember what that, is it 27, 28? Somewhere in that ballpark?
I think it'll be 28.
Okay. And at that point, it's going to be, do we pay for the new pay system, or do we continue on with, or was this kind of let's stretch it out so that we can we'll see how that turns out.
Well, it was designed to be a 5-year pilot program to see how it would affect ridership and it would affect revenue. And when the decision was made to do this, it was determined that fares only contributed like about 2% to the budget. And that if we were to continue with fares, there was going to have to be a multi-million-dollar investment in new technology, because the old fare box where you plunk your coins or bills in were being literally held together with duct tape, and they couldn't get replacement parts for these. And not only would it be a big initial expense, it would be a big ongoing expense, because you have to get into this, what they call the ORCA system, and which actually processes all the finances of it and charges a hefty sum to do that. So what we're going to be looking at eventually in the next year or so is what the costs will be, because ORCA's going to a brand new system, which is probably going to be even more costly, and how that plays out, and do some future casting of revenues, see where we are.
Okay.
I think it's everybody's hope that we can continue with the zero fare.
Yeah, I agree. I know a lot of the high school kids and the junior high kids are so happy that they get to ride for free. And there's a lot of parents who also take advantage of it. People with bicycles and put bike on there. I've heard nothing but good things about it for years now, so hopefully it stays in place. Before we close, I did want to bring to everybody's attention that our
Taco Tuesday.
Employee Recognition Week starts on March 2nd. Here at City Hall. It's coffee kickoff day, Taco Tuesday, game day, and I want to thank the city manager for thinking outside of the box on this one and doing something different this year than we've done all the previous years. And I think this is going to be something that gets a lot of employee engagement. I hope it is. And so thank you for putting that together.
Yeah, if I can kind of add a little bit of background too, because traditionally we've always had the one-day luncheon, a little bit more formal. And some of the feedback I received over the last 2 years was, hit and miss for people wanting to attend, feeling comfortable being recognized in that forum. And then also that was some of the feedback I received from the employee survey that we conducted later this past year, just kind of getting a sense of how people look recognized. So kind of thought of this idea about, well, why not, let's switch it up from the luncheon idea that we've done for years and look at Employee Appreciation Week and make it more of a celebration all week long and for a festival. So I do want to recognize Nicole Williams as well as the rest of the executive assistants, because I asked Nicole, hey, explore this idea. She met with the group, and this is the program that they came up with. And as you can see from the flyer, Monday through Friday next week, there's a different theme for each day, different activities, and really trying to set this up so we can go around to where the employees are, and they can not only connect with their direct peers, but also hopefully get some cross-pollination between departments, and just provide a different format for them to be able to celebrate themselves as well as us celebrate them. One thing I do want to mention is we still want to recognize those individuals that have hit milestones in their time here with the city of Lacey. So we'll be go around to their individual departments to recognize that, or recognize them, and then also look at the second council meeting in March to also recognize those that hit the 20, 25, 30-year with council as well. So we're trying to just mix it up a little bit different, create a little bit of a theme, see how it works, and then look at feedback and continue to adjust going forward to really do something that is valuable to those that serve this community. So.
Well, hopefully everybody appreciates what you've done, and this works out really well. And with that, we've reached the end of our agenda. I don't have anything further, so I did want to just recognize Black History Month, and the passing of Jesse was kind of sad. So great civil rights leader. And with that, I will call this meeting adjourned, and as usual, you keep it classy, Lacey.